What caused you to think I'm never visiting again after being in someone's home? Oh yeah, did we mention we've got bed bugs? You should be okay, though. Might want to give someone a heads up about that in advance, you know, so they can not come. Finally went to a girl's house that I had been talking to for a little while. We were messing around on the couch, things were advancing, and she asked to move to the bed. We get in the room and I noticed a foul smell. I started looking around and saw a pile of dog crap on the floor. No big deal. We had been out for a few hours and accidents happen. I told her about it and she said oh no like she was surprised and went to the bathroom to get things to clean it up. While she was in the bathroom I spotted 3 separate piles of crap and one of them almost petrified and had to have been there for a few days. I told her I didn't feel well and was going to go home. I never saw her again lol. A justifiable ghosting. A work friend invited me over to his house to watch a hockey game so I said sure why not. I bought a 6-pack of beers and he said sweet. He just put them in his fridge. He proceeded to pour himself scotch but never asking me I wanted to have a drink. Then he pulled out some leftovers and made himself a dish and again. He never asked me if I was hungry. Then I just asked for a beer that I had bought. And he said I guess, but I was going to save them for another time. I left after the game and it's been really awkward at work. Their dog pee on my shoe because I was in her peeing zone, which happened to be right in the doorway to their kitchen. She just let the dog pee there instead of bothering teaching her to go outside. Sadly my interactions with this woman weren't up to me, but I think that was the last time I went to that house in particular. She also let her cat crap between the wall and dishwasher in her next house for about 2 years straight and didn't even notice until she moved out. She's also a hoarder and her place is always crammed to the brim with furniture. This person no longer has animals, thankfully. The dog went to another owner. I hope they treated her better. Met my biological father and half siblings when I was 12. Spent a night at his house to get to know my family. Proceeded to spend that entire night feeling disgusting, watching roaches crawl across the TV, trailing from the ceiling down the wall into the trash can, crawling all over the piles of actual garbage laying on the bedroom floors. I did not use the bathroom that night. It was a very long night. These replies are making me want to deep clean my house 5 times even though I've lived in the same place for 10 years and have never had a pest problem even with 10 plus animals living there at once. People who can't keep their living spaces clean likely have some deep-seated mental drug issues. I had a new friend in middle school and I went over her house for a sleepover. It was fun at first because we were just playing outside. Then she shows me her creepy, unfinished basement with a rabbit hutch and some bunnies. She tells me how sad she was when one of her bunnies died recently and how her older brother made her laugh by making its corpse dance. Her dad is drinking in the kitchen. Big beer gut. Something about him makes me feel uneasy. She shows me a room with a big fish hanging on the wall and flies around its eyes. She says we can either sleep in here on the couches or in her bedroom. Then she tells me that her mom and brother sleep in her room with her every night and they lock the door. I ask why. She says ghosts. I'm thinking, what about your dad? Don't ask it aloud because I figure it's really him they're hiding from. Then I fake a stomachache and had her mom take me home. WTF. On another note, I hope they're in a better place now. Was not offered any form of bedding. Slept on the floor while they slept on the bed. They offered flooring. I had a buddy I visited who played cat turd golf in his house because there were cat turds caked onto the carpeting everywhere. I believe an 8-iron was the club of choice. What the frick? I once went to a party at someone's house in Florida at night. We were all hanging out in the backyard so the house looked okay from the outside. I asked the host if I could use his bathroom and I noticed the wallpaper looked kinda fuzzy but I chalked it up to being tipsy. It wasn't until he flicked the light switch on that the fuzzy wallpaper was in fact a huge roach infestation and they scattered everywhere and even more ran away from us when he put the toilet seat down for me and left. I was too scared to move, let alone sit in peace, so I just sped walked right the frick up out of the whole house and held my pee until I got home. I have no idea how they were okay living in that house with a trillion roach roomies. Their bathroom floor was carpet and it was always wet. It went through my shoes and got my socks wet. First time, maybe someone just showered. Second time, nope, I can't live like this. Their house smelled so strongly of dog that I might as well have tied their dog to my face. They only had one medium-sized dog that spent most of its time in the backyard. Frick, I can't stand that. Dirty dog people who are dog scented. I have a dog but it gets washed so my everything doesn't stink. I was the new kid in the 6th grade and quickly made friends with this one girl. I think she kind of jumped at the chance to be friends with the one person who knew literally nothing about her. She was really nice to me, but also kind of really strange. Like she'd growl at people and she'd draw wolves on every single surface from the classroom to her bedroom. But nonetheless we were both in an advanced art program so we saw each other more than I saw other people in my grade and I wasn't in a position to reject friendship. Went to her house once, never went back. When we entered the home it smelled heavily of dog urine, but there wasn't a dog. When I asked if she had a dog her response was no, not since the accident. Then there was an uncomfortable silence and she just started laughing uncontrollably. Red flag. I stayed because my mother wasn't picking me up until a bit later and I didn't exactly know how to walk home. When my mother did come to pick me up and I was about to exit the house, the girl's mom literally ran after me and grabbed me and brought me back upstairs. She shook my shoulders screaming I couldn't leave right now. I started freaking out not knowing what was happening. The girl's mom is frantically running around to all the windows and screaming at someone outside in a language I don't understand. My mom calls the house and is also freaking out. The girl's mom wouldn't let her talk to me and she also just watched me get dragged back by this woman. So she calls the police. It escalates and turns into like a mini hostage kind of situation. There was a guy outside that the girl's mom used to date and he wanted something from her and if I left he'd run into the house when the door opened. So I couldn't leave. Cops come. The girl's mom gives me a plastic shopping bag duct taped everywhere and tells me under no circumstances am I allowed to look inside of it and that I had to hand it to the man outside. I didn't want to do that but it seems like it's the only way I'm getting out of there. It was rounded out by the contents and I remember it bearing the weight of a bowling ball. I actually peed on myself, I was so scared. I didn't know what else to do so I took the bag and started to leave the house. When I made it to the exit I straight up yeeted the bag and ran to my mother. I have no clue where the guy was. I think at that point he was already apprehended by the police. The whole time this was happening, the girl who I was there to hang out with was sitting on the table in her kitchen, eating cereal like a dog, not at all fazed by the series of events happening in front her. We had to go to the police station that night and because it was so late when I got home, I didn't go to school the next day. That day I missed school. The girl told everyone I was insane, and that when we hung out I went crazy and I peed myself for no absolutely reason. We don't talk anymore. What the frick? In 7th grade I stayed overnight at a new friend's house. She thought it would be hilarious to point her dad's shotgun at me. I never went back. I ended up being left alone with friend's mom. The women spent 30 minutes telling me every outlandish conspiracy theory in the book. Asked for my help with her Facebook account because she was positive the government was tracking her with it because she knew that the end of times was coming and who God was going to punish. She said a lot and I don't remember half of it because my brain couldn't process the fact someone thought and believed all this. Love the rest of the family though. It was such a mess that the most organized guests' things would disappear into thin air and it permanently smelled like sausage rolls. Sounded bad until the sausage rolls part. I had an almost rich friend. Almost meaning that his parents were well to do. They just up and gave him a house. And his grandma was in the oil business. Would leave 6-figure dividend checks uncashed on her tables because who cares. So he moves into his detached garage. Halfway turns it into an apartment. And rents out the house to another friend. I didn't go over there often. But I knew that he hadn't sprung for improvements to the apartment like a toilet or running water. Understandable. I guessed he would just go in the house to use the bathroom. I visited one day. His apartment was trashed. Used pizza boxes were everywhere. Dirty dishes, dirty clothes, etc. All of that I could understand. This was his house, his living space. Who was I to judge? Then I noticed two things. A definite dog crap smell and his penchant for Gatorade. The dog crap was obviously from the other friend's dog, except that it had tracked it into the apartment and my friend had tracked it all around, mooshing it into the crappy carpet. I was about to comment on him storing Gatorade all along the shelf near his computer and how keeping it cold would be better, until I realized that these were already used. The bottles were full of what I was sure wasn't Gatorade, but he was almost rich, so he was better than me, according to him. First thing, being threatened to have my dong cut off and possibly shot. I was meeting her parents for the first time, never had any problems with the girl, wanted to meet her family. Hey Mr. Johnson, nice to meet you. Won't be so nice after I cut your dong off and possibly shoot you. Freshman year in someone's dorm, a yellow jizz sock sitting on top of the keyboard and a bottle of dark orange liquid in a Coke bottle on the floor next to it. Was supposed to be staying over and I was attacked by fleas, noped right out of there right then after dousing my legs in red flea killer that they had sitting around. I was a mental health case manager a few years ago, so I would do home and school visits to make my clients' lives easier. I had this one client who lived in a 3-bedroom/2 bathroom house with her 2 parents and 11 siblings, 2 cats and 3 dogs. When I walked in, I almost dry heaved due to the smell, and then it just got worse from there. I stood up for our entire 1-hour session. I cut it down to 45 minutes because there was dog poop, some roaches, probably dog pee, and some mysterious crusty white substance on the couch, and the floor was awful too. There was moldy food sitting on the coffee table and rotten milk in what I'm guessing was a bowl of cereal. I had to call CPS due to these kids' living environment, and then I insisted that I either see the child at school or the family come to the clinic. I was paranoid that I had picked up some bed bugs or lice or fleas or something and went home and stripped in the garage. I felt so bad because I know that my client had no choice but to live with her family in that house, and that mom and dad had to work multiple jobs each to be able to afford just to keep a roof over their family's heads, so there was no time for much else. Fortunately, with the help of some resources through CPS, my client showed me pictures of her new house, which was really just her old house with clean floors, new furniture, fresh food, etc. First happy ending of the thread. In grade K, I had a sleepover with one of my mom's friend's kid who was also in grade K. First off, I brought my Game Boy. He also had a Game Boy. The difference was that his was covered in snot and other gross dried substances. Of course, he tried to switch his with mine on multiple occasions. Secondly, he put on his mom's see-through black panties. That was enough for me. Scissors stuck in the ceiling. Like the whole living room kitchen area ceiling was covered with scissors. My dad once got mad while he was working on something in the garage and whipped his pencil against the wall. It stuck in perfectly, and we kept it there for a couple years as a shrine. Maybe they were just doing the same. The house was over 100 years old, I think. Very thin walls, water from a well. The tub was filled with moldy books and papers. The floor in front of the bathtub was rotted and caved in. The house was filled with stacks of newspapers and boxes from floor to ceiling, and you had to navigate through them. The owner collected porcelain dolls and had them displayed in various places. Many just still in boxes. The living room had a small opening between the newspaper columns to an old TV surrounded by the dolls and a single chair to watch it. But the worst part, I kept thinking there were odd curtains pinned to the roof. They were billowing nets of spider webs. Webs so dense that they looked like fabric and were just hanging like strung curtains. Spiders crawling all over the roof. Pledged to never return. I found out many years later that it burned down. My home is nearly 100 years old. I just maintain mine. My friend didn't tell me they had bed bugs until a week after I had gone home. My room got infested and all my furniture had to be tossed, including the dresser my mom had painted for me when I was a kid. I had a friend do this to me as well. The pile of dishes in the sink with spider webs on it. Upon being asked what the deal was, she told me that a couple of years ago, her mom decided she wasn't doing the dishes anymore. They got divorced and the rest of the family swapped to paper plates. No one will do them out of spite, so they've been there for more than 2-3 years by the time I saw it. It's been 5 years since and I doubt they've been touched. Stayed the night at some of my friend's house. They had just got an older house that they all roomed in. Unfortunately, all of them had gotten scabies and waited to tell me until the morning after of drinking and me spending the night on the couch. Had to do all kinds of extensive creams and treatments to get rid of. Got drunk at a party and one of my friend's girlfriend offered to take me to their house because I was too drunk to drive, which I appreciated. But when I woke up the next morning, the first thing I saw was the house completely covered in very unshy, very socialized roaches. Not the big ones, the little ones that completely just take over. I was so uncomfortable and stranded in a house in the middle of nowhere for over 2 hours, scratching every minute. Walking from the mall one day, I took a different block than I normally did. I passed a house with a rusted old vehicle in the driveway, and just as I pass, roaches scatter in broad daylight. A month or so passes and I'm hanging out with my buddy. He says, I met some dude who's pretty cool, want to go over to his place? Sure, I reply. We pull up. No crap, up to that same house from the beginning of the story. Same car, same roaches. Frick it. The guy was okay to hang out with, it turns out, but everything else that happened in that house was the thing of nightmares. And yes, the roaches live inside too. 1. Dad and mom hanging out on dirty couch. Dad in his underwear. 2. 2 emaciated dogs. A Great Dane with some horrible joint issue or displaced leg socket limping around. And a chihuahua constantly rubbing his butt all over the carpet. 3. No running water. It had to be turned on from the mains, as everything leaked in the house if they left it on. 4. Cigarettes put out on tables, desks, literally anywhere possible. 5. The kid literally BBQing inside his room. 6. The same kid spray painted his room black. 7. The kid's brother sleepwalking and peeing on the kitchen floor. He cleans it up with a towel laying on the floor and leaves it there once he's done. 8. That same kitchen has stacks of dishes migrating out from the sink onto every inch of the counter. 8. Me and my buddy ask if he has any snacks. He comes back with a bag of chips, jar of mayonnaise, can of corn and can of tuna. Mixed it all up and proceeds to double dip all day. Not to mention I hate tuna, but that's my issue. Wash it down with a bottle of Shasta Cola with Santa on it. It's August. 9. Dad comes in to chat with the guys and talks about his gout for an hour. 10. Dude's cousin is living there because she got kicked out of her house. She's fat and trashy and lonely, so she tries to hang with us. Sitting on the nasty stained carpet, picking her feet while eating a bag of Cheetos, and without shame asks if we'd like any. Now granted, this all took place on mostly separate occasions, and I kept going back. But whoa boy, that family was something else. And every time I left, I thought to myself, that's it, I'm never coming back. So many cats. Cats were locked inside all day and they never cleaned up after them. Every surface in the house had cat food and or cat crap on it. Kitchen, stove had cat crap on it. Take a seat on the couch, but mind the cat crap. No idea what the floor was made of, because it was covered in newspaper, fur, food, and you guessed it, cat crap. No idea how the smell hadn't killed them. No idea how the cats hadn't killed them either. Poor animals. Filth. Just everywhere. And just weird stuff. Like in the garage, there was a dirty spatula on the seat of the brand new Holly. I saw one of the kids open a door on the coffee table and I saw a bowl full of what I'm guessing was either really old milk from cereal or yellowed cottage cheese. Right inside the front door was a huge pile of shoes. Like a pile of shoes. 5 people lived in that house and I think each person had 10 pairs of shoes in that pile. I'm pretty sure everyone had some sort of foot fungus because the whole pile smelled like garbage and fritters. We keep getting offers to stay with them when we're in town, but hard pass. The mom of my next door neighbors as a kid was a hoarder and the house was always sticky and smelled like sour milk. No thanks. Growing up, I was good friends with a girl whose brother had passed away in his teens unexpectedly. They were a really nice family and I truly really enjoyed spending time with her. About 3 years after her brother passed away, we were at her house playing and we smelled this horrible smell that was coming from his old room. She was so embarrassed and just said it happens sometimes. I tell my mom but she doesn't care. So we decided to investigate because at 12 years old that's totally normal. Well, her brother had about 4 ferrets, and they had reproduced at some point. There were about 10 dead ferrets, a dead turtle in a tank, surrounded in fesses and mess, moldy petrified food and all of his dirty laundry. Turns out his mom was so sad from him passing she just literally left his room the way it was, animals and all. I told my mom what happened and her suggestion was to always have her over at our house from now on, which was for the best. Me and a girl had been sexting each other for most of the afternoon. She was home alone so I decided to go round hers. First thing I noticed was there was junk piled everywhere and things had a layer of dust on them. And house smelt really badly of mustiness and wet dog. But whatever. Sex. Once I'd retrieved my discarded clothing from the floor once I was done, a layer of dog hair had attached itself to my shirt and jeans. The bathroom was the worst. Went to go and get myself cleaned up. The shower was absolutely filthy and the junk was still piled up in there. However, while peeing I turned to the left and noticed an entire colony of dead spiders on the wall, and black mold covering the corners of the ceiling. I finished up, drove home and had a very long shower. You should get yourself checked for stees. They kept playing a game of who can make the guests more uncomfortable and both were winning. Also, I learned that dinner was too much to ask for at a dinner party. Should have said your apartment flooded so you can leave. In high school a friend's house was missing most of the carpet, and her room was covered in mud from her St. Bernard. The kitchen never had any food and was the kind of house you didn't want to eat from anyway. The furniture was all dirty and smelled weird, too. It was the most uncomfortable night of my life. I felt bad for her because she didn't understand that was no way to live. I imagine she lived like that her whole life. My ex's parents' house was disgusting. They had 2 dogs they allowed to pee pretty much anywhere and they kept both the litter box and the dirty dishes in the shower. Once a week the whole family would share a bath together, take the dishes out and put them back into the cupboards, and then grow portobello mushrooms in the moist litter box. Also that organic matter really gives one's skin a lustrous, healthy shine, while also promoting a robust immune system. Eco-friendly innovators, pioneers of sustainable living. Dirty bongs and moldy dishes all over the place. Then her kid sister came down with a rat and said, "This is my new rat. I killed the other one." She stabbed it in the eyes. On the last day of my last visit, I noticed my mom's smoke detector was lying broken on the shelf, having accrued a layer of dust already. I asked about it, and mentioned that I am concerned for her safety, particularly given that she uses a wood fireplace for house heating, and has gas appliances. CO hazard. I offered to go pick up a new one as I was shopping for road trip supplies. She got angry. I was judging her, which her child would and shouldn't do, yelled at me, got in my face, followed me out the door to my car, and stood in the street, furious, as I left. I have never been back. If she's older, could be the beginning stages of dementia or something. Walked in my friend's living room and it is wall-to-ceiling Nazi memorabilia. I'm talking flags, giant metal swastikas, uniforms, the whole lot. I just backed out. Later learned his dad is an antique dealer and they were all being sold to some sort of institute. Still scared me shitless. I thought I wandered into a trap. I will never again visit my Bill and Sil in the next state over. They are fire people. Financial independence, retire early, they don't spend a penny on anything, expect everyone else to subsidize their lifestyle, and openly judge anyone else that doesn't live life the exact way that they do. They go to bed at 7:30 p.m, so they expect everyone to have dinner at 5, and then be quiet when they go to sleep. They then get up at 4 a.m. to work out, walk the dog, but don't give the same courtesy to anyone else because it's our fault we're sleeping so late. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.